doing this thing, this little alcove where Bob's a very gentle person, the puppeteer, so instead of harassing him and assaulting him verbally, what he did is there was a brick in this wall right behind where the bagpiper was set up, and he put a remote control radio in this little ghetto blaster type of thing in this niche in the wall, put the brick back in there, and every time the bagpiper would go over and start to set up, he collapsed this radio on, and it took him 3-4 times to figure out what was going on, but it was so clever that the guy actually moved away as a result of it.
So California, you have the same problem of a lot of performers working at the same time in a small area?
We have different problems, but the only difference is that the way our situation is set up, the problems get confronted differently. But if given the opportunity, we could recreate this circumstance perfectly. We just don't have the exact conditions.
See, I've always thought that something that was unique about Key West is that for a small period of time in the day, you have every performer on the island doing their show, all competing with each other to get a crowd.
Yeah.
Whereas in Boston or in New York or in D.C., if you're playing a place where you're scheduled, you're given a 2-hour time period and you're the only performer there. That's a real nice way to do it.
Of course, but that, in a sense, in Key West means you're giving somebody the entire day.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And there is no place for that to
And in my mind, I mean, I've been going along here for a long time. When I get into a situation that's really difficult, I usually back away at this point in my career. I don't continue to push. And then, unfortunately, I think what potential is we end up with the quality of the work going down, because the good acts simply can go work in places where they're not going to be harassed as much.
Time periods kind of get away from the spontaneity of street performing.
Absolutely.
Which is what everybody's doing it for, just to be able to
wait
go.
a minute, I don't think that there's really spontaneity has nothing to do with your show.
Oh,
no.
it does.
Wait, with setting up and doing the show.
It does, because I get points in the day where I know I can't go perform. I don't want to go perform. I want to go perform something, so I'm going out in an alleyway with a reflection in somebody's back window and practicing for them, because I want to do it right then and there. And that's why I became a street performer, is to perform when I'm into what I'm doing.
But does that necessarily affect the quality of your work?
I personally think so, because I go out there full time and I may not be into what I'm doing.
No.
I cannot get into the right frame of mind to do a good show.
Sure.
Just because it's the wrong time of day.
On the other hand,
but if I don't do the show, I don't have any money.
No.
I really have adamant feelings about this one, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's an issue I think I should address. And there's a flip side to it. Oh yeah, sure, it's not as spontaneous as going out and working on the street corner. Well, I'm a street performer who came up working on street corners. We don't.
I'm not talking street corner. It's just a place where we're not totally restricted to what time. And if you're playing in a stage in a private courtyard, you have a time. And some days you have fantastic shows with music, and other days you have shows.
Right. They happen to let come down and tourists come down, so you get a busy place with not heavy traffic. So if in fact there are more performers than space, and let's not have it all, quite honestly, I mean, it wasn't overly enjoyable, it was spectacle. It would seem to me that there's a lot of space, which you're doing this week, but what inhibits anybody, David, what would inhibit you from at 11 o'clock in the morning going out to a restaurant where they have a sidewalk cafe and doing your thing? Is there any law against that?
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
There's laws against that everywhere, and it's not worried about getting arrested. I don't usually know. States that can check me out of the country tomorrow if they're arrested and get 20 on the streets. And I'd like to stay here for a while, so I'm a little hesitant about pushing their laws too much. I'm looking for a loophole. I think I found one, but I'm going to have to bust this back. There's a couple people that would like to have performers around their shows, and they're in the courtyard.
Yeah, now that can work because that's a private space.
Which is a public
And
space.
that is the
So
one-
I'm looking into that, but it's only because of Buskers Fest that even the merchants are saying,
You see, part of the problem is that Key West is an old restored area. They very much want to maintain a very special point comfort like this.
All the places we work are old restored areas.
Exactly, and so at this point, what they have not realized, and it was interestingly enough when they wanted to get rid of the vendors on the pier, the only one who ever said they specifically wanted to be rid of vendor and performer was the Chamber of Commerce. And no one else wanted to see the performers go.
Well, they always want to turn everything into a shopping mall with closed things. So chambers of commerce are always the enemy, almost worse than the police. Because they're always
Except
want
that,
to
see, performers have made Key West a real special place. International magazines and newspapers always put
I just wanted to say one thing, just what is that the reason scheduling is developed in I think places is for the convenience of the acts that are working long term to organize their day to do other things besides waiting for a time spot to come up.
There's so many advantages to it. I want to respond to what you're saying. I really have seen it from the very beginning, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, there's certain things that get lost, but let's just say that, okay, you don't have the spontaneity of doing it where you want, when you want, but you don't have the police, you know, this horrible noise of buses going by. You've got a security force around if the drunks get too obnoxious. You don't have other buskers showing up to nail your spot, you know, by getting there 3 hours earlier than you and setting up camp there. The fact that you can have, that you know what your situation is going to be like, the lighting, the wind, you have all the elements that you would want in a street performance. It's different from an indoor performance, okay? To me at least. The things that really designate the difference are A is a hat. You're passing a hat to make your money, and you don't do that in a theater. That is a real major difference. And if you do it in a shopping complex or you go on the street, you're still passing a hat. Okay, despite what Philippe Petit says, I think they're good places. The second thing is you don't have the support network that you have in a theater. And so that's a real major difference, regardless of whether it's in a shopping mall or whether it's on the street corner. Third thing is that you don't have so much of a fourth wall between audience and performer like you have anytime you go indoors and have that proscenium march there. So I think it's still really street performing, and I think it's much better street performing. And I think the sophisticated level that we have in American busking would never have occurred if it stayed strictly on the sidewalks. Also, because on the sidewalks, it becomes lowest common denominator stuff a lot of the times. The more subtle things won't work there because the audience is a lot more prone to get the hell out of there and leave. So it's nothing but chainsaws and torches on the sidewalk.
That's an interesting concept.
Venice Beach is sort of like that in California. Yeah, the focus is much more tuned down. It's difficult to do the shows. You can also get big crowds.
Yeah, but it's just
I don't know.
Well, who else has any ideas on how to solve the Key West problem? What do you vendors think about how to solve it? Do you think it's being solved now, like restructured?
Well, we're sporadic at best. You've only been here, your last year for a while. We come to represent whatever people think. We've been in Europe, and in fact, to be good at what we do, first of all, you have to make it nice. Second of all, you have to be quite creative in the way you do it.
Yes.
There's a little bit of a street theater as well. And in Quebec, there's problem in the States. You have one small place in the United States where you have a good weather season, January, February, and March. And,
Literally almost 50 states worth of performers come pouring down here.
Want to take a chance?
Yeah, the other thing that San Francisco did, besides making the artists, not the street performers, but the street artists, besides having them have to make something with their own hands, the other thing they did was they simply appointed a panel of jurors to do that, and then they also picked a number at random. They looked at the available space. They said, "This is the space we have. This is the number of artists."
They do it on a lottery basis.
It's a completely different situation. Here in Key West, you have a handful of people who are really who can support themselves in Key West at a time of the year. The season here is very, very short. The time period of each day, you have to make a living in 2 hours a day. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
And the season is 2.5 months, but you have 1 week a month, which is
you know.
So,
That's